Escape Pod, Episode 638. Flashback Friday. Ulla. By Daniel Schwabauer.
Hi everyone, I'm Alistair. Welcome to this month's Flashback Friday. Every month, I pull a story from the Escape Pod archives and take a look at it with fresh eyes, and always find something surprising. This episode, Ulla, originally appeared on December 7th, 2006. It was hosted by Steve Ely and read by Jared Axelrod and J.R. Blackwell. All three are relentlessly creative, fiercely self-aware artists, and they are some of my favourite people. The author, Daniel Schwabauer, has won countless awards, including the Grant K. Goodman and the Ben Franklin. He's the author of books such as Curse of the Seer and Runt the Hunted. So, get ready, because it's story time.
Ulla by Daniel Schwabauer. 7022. Ulla. The moment has nearly come. We'll begin killing them soon. I wish I could see you again before then, or at least have the soft pleasure of your voice. But I must be content with the pulse of your mind through the thought tablet, already 500 rotations past. Your thoughts do comfort me, and I hope that these thoughts of mine comfort you as well. It is right for the council to have struck our names from the rock. We who go to kill can have no honor even among ourselves. I confess I did not really believe this when we left, for it has been an incalculable time since our race last succumbed to the bloodlust, and my only taste of it has been the shifting images of the Krusleth as I slept. But now I believe the striking of our names from the rock is wisdom, because I have been thinking of killing, and no punishment is too severe for what we are about to do, even if our actions are necessary. The world we now occupy is red, forth from its sun, and extreme in its temperature. The atmosphere is lethal. Without our shelters, we would die. But we will not be here long. Already, the attack cylinders, loaded with machinery and the weapons of destruction, stand ready in the firing tubes. Soon I shall be sending you thoughts from the third planet. I have loved you. Dueth Skrull.
6554. Dieskrull. Things shall have changed greatly when you receive this. Your ship travels fast now, and every word flowing through my limb to the thought pad takes 5 rotations to complete. I am told that the soonest any message can reach you is some time after you occupy the base world, but I am satisfied with that. I have lived with you for 10,000 rotations, and I shall live with your thoughts until they stop, and your memory until our sun expires, or the invaders, in the event of your failure, arrive. In the crystal garden a new flower blooms. Its center is smooth as ice, and brilliant as morning. I have named it Duskrana to remind me of you. Seeing it pleases me. In 1,000 seasons its facets will be as large as the tips of my limbs, and I shall have to remove it to the water lawn. I shall not advise you to be careful, only to do what you must without malice. I have never known the Krusleth to err, but who knows? Perhaps the dreams of the Krusleth show us not what must be, but what might be. And hasn't the council sent you? But even if the chain of nexts is unbreakable, do not allow the bloodlust to invade you, nor expect to be invulnerable to it. I have respected the one you are, the one of peace and self-sacrifice. I have even respected you against all command for what you must do now. But I cannot bear to remember you in rage. Let the future show that our enemies were evil, even at the cost of ourselves, rather than become that way again. Think to me soon. I have loved you, Ulla.
7023. Ulla. I have been occupied. The time came for the command to fire the first cylinder, and my thoughts gave me reason to pause. Rithganulk asked for the command, but I made him wait. I went to my quarters to be alone. I thought of the river behind our home, The sound of the water against the rocks, the glint of the light against the slivers of crystal near the bank where the current cannot quite reach. How many nows have we shared, you and I? How many moments since our forefathers, some of which still live, indulged the passions of our former nature? Was this world we are about to destroy even born yet? I have watched them, and they fascinate me. Their lives are over as we blink. To live 1,000 rotations is a great accomplishment among them, and yet they exterminate one another as though each were an insensate matter. A bit of dust, a few drops of hydrogen. Perhaps that is all they are, after all. And yet they speak, twittering like Jugotharin. They dance, they sing, they make music, they clamor and jeer and vibrate. Were it not for the great shivering commotion of life and noise that smothers their existence, I could find myself thinking that they might someday create a culture. But there is never, not even once, a now of silence among them. Still, I thought, this is not an evil, for one does not blame the river for its incessant gurgle. Perhaps their noise is a difference which could become greatness in them. But I have this against them. They hate, they envy, they kill without remorse. They invent new ways of doing evil. They possess a bloodlust which diminishes ours. I know this because they admit it. But they do not confess it in themselves with sorrow. They confess it against one another. They shake their limbs at their neighbors in fury at the evil they profess to despise, and then do the same evil themselves. I think the universe will not be a lesser place without them. The universe will be diminished only because, upon my command, so many of my brethren will have become killers. My only regret is I cannot carry this shame and horror alone. When I returned to Rithgenulk, I gave him the command to fire the first cylinder. I wish now that I could have been the first to arrive, the first to make contact, the first to kill. It would be easier for me to think that my actions had begun to shame, rather than mere words. But as commander, I must be the last to arrive. The atmosphere of their world is, as we suspected, a poisonous vapor. Our bodies cannot long survive the foreign microbes in the air. The first team will prove to us how long we have. If we can live sufficient time to assemble and detonate the global chain of blast cylinders, then we shall wear no life masks. We shall suffer an agony like that which we inflict, even before the sun is blotted from their sky and their world is plunged into cold and darkness. We decided this together, and the decision has made me proud in this one respect of my command. Our world brings death to theirs. Their world shall bring death to us. It is our last hope and honor. Think kindly of me, though I shall not be alive to receive it. I have loved you. U.S. Skrull.
6555. Dear School. The council met today. Someone has had a vision. I can guess what it was about, for everyone seems worried. 100 times today I heard mutters of, "The cruelest does not lie." Our neighbors look at me with a mixture of admiration and disgust. This confuses me, for we have all submitted to the council in everything. At the end of the day, everyone dispersed, and the night stars glimmered like crystals in the garden of Crus. I stood alone and gazed upwards, as though I might find your star somewhere among them. You are out there, I know, staring back at me over the black void of night even now. I can almost feel your caress, your soft words of comfort, your promise of life. Do you remember telling me that love is the hybrid fruit of sorrow and joy? I only thought that I understood you then. Now I see more clearly. Love is not merely the countless shimmering stars that spin through the universe. It is also the awful distance between them. Think to me, Ulla.
7023-2. Ulla. I gave the command for the firing of the second to last cylinder. I shall go when I have finished this letter. Rithgenulk shall stay at this base until the planet is destroyed. Then he will return home with knowledge of the outcome. I have no pleasure in reporting that the war has already begun, and that the resistance by the enemy has been futile. They die wantonly. Their finest fighting machines to this point are helpless before the blast of our heat rays. Their cities are like insect colonies. The destruction is horrifying. I've tried to alleviate it somewhat by the aggressive containment of our strategic areas, but, like the intelligent creatures they are, they seem to value most highly what we take, and despise what we are willing to let them, temporarily, keep. Thus I have ordered the spread of the toxic gas which we are prepared from this base. I swore to myself I would spare you the details of my dreams, but I find I cannot. For I know someday you will have time to reflect upon my actions, and though I know that publicly you must view our mission with shame, privately I wish you to be pleased with me. It comes to this. The bloodlust has begun in my men, and I haven't the arrogance to think that I alone, after arriving and participating in the slaughter, shall be exempt from this instinctive desire. I see the machines of the enemy as they alight on the surface of our world. Graceful, swooping wings like those of the Taramolok, fixed to crescent bodies, huge as mountains, terrible in sound, as though enraged, vast as the desert sands. These disgorge their machines, three-legged weapons of destruction, equipped with heat rays and capable of squatting to enter our buildings or running like sand sidgets over valleys and hills. They have war walkers. Our people are destroyed, tortured by fire. I see you, my beloved, and the awful specter of death on three metallic legs crouching at our door. I hear you scream. This future may not be avoidable, but the Council has decided to consider such dreams warning and to resist the invaders by the same methods they would otherwise use on us. It was not my choice, and I don't know if it is right. I only know that I would rather die this way than cowering behind our door. I must go now, for Rithganok grows impatient for me to give the order. I have loved you. Dueth Skrull.
6556. Dear Skrull. I sit by the river with a thought pad. Dawn approaches with her curtain of light. The tingle of crystals on my skin gives warmth, just enough to make the chilling vapor of night pleasurable. The sound of water against rock draws me to you, as though you were here now. I lean against the bank and close my eyes. For just this moment, I do not care that your name has been stricken. I do not care that the Krulsith grows. I do not care that the Council is in turmoil. There is this now, the river, the crystals, the air, and the thought of you. Ulla.
7024. Ulla. Only my will brings me to the thought pad. I have killed, and I have felt the bloodlust. My cylinder landed last on the island, and my command began the final preparations for detonation of the blast cylinders. An enemy appeared beyond the ridge of our primary defenses. He held a missile weapon before him. He stared at us for what seemed a long time. An animal howled next to him. Then he raised the weapon in both... What do I call them? The limbs are jointed like the forelimbs of the Jurgotharin. He raised the weapon in both forelimbs and fired at us. The projectiles would be deadly enough to our bodies, but cannot pierce the armor of the cylinder. That itself is encouraging, because we now know with certainty that they do not actually have war walkers or heat rays, nor do they possess the freedom of mechanical flight. So perhaps the Kruslev speak only of possibilities after all. Perhaps our efforts to fashion weapons like those which we saw in our dreams were unnecessary, even from the standpoint of justice. But these questions are irrelevant now. For a moment, beloved Ulla, I hesitated. I feared myself. I wondered if this enemy had thoughts like mine, desires, opinions, regrets. Then I gave the command, and the heat ray, which we took from them by the Kruslev, was turned upon him. His body twisted in agony for just a moment before death, and then there was an awful silence. Oh, my beloved Ulla, if I ever felt such a complete union of joy and shame on our world, the ground would have run wet with the blood of my brethren. I scan the horizon now for more enemies to kill, because I cannot stop my desire. It is only training that keeps me from leaving this place in a warwalker and spreading the destruction. Soon, the blast cylinder link will be ready, and our shame will end. I have loved you. Duet Screw.
6557. Dear Screw. The Council wavers. No one has dreams. We all know that the Kusleth is erratic, but now they attribute the silence of Kruths to some fault. Our neighbors assign blame at random. I believe that they would rather see enemy ships in the sky than not know what to expect. And now I have this thought. What if Kruth speaks also to the enemy? Forgive me this profanity, but I see a deep irony. Perhaps when we are dreaming dreams, the Kusleth is silent, and when ours is silent, they are dreaming dreams. Could knowing the future be evil? I have loved you, Ulla.
7025. Ulla. I grow weak. 4 of my command have been killed by the enemy, and 6 by the alien atmosphere. This planet is torture to us. The air is too thin, and the island where we have landed is cold. Water condenses easily and patters against our bodies, but there is no pleasure in it. Crystals here are rare. I've heard the enemy rations them for food, but there is a taste of them in the air when the wind blows up from the sea, for it is a slight crystal content. 3 of my command were destroyed by an enemy ship when they went to the ocean to bask in the crystal water, but I have ordered everyone to stay away. This is, of course, also torture. Soon I will be able to give the command for detonation, and our pain will be over. I have loved you. Duet Screw.
6558. Dear Screw. Forgive my last thoughts. The insanity must be touching me also. I have loved you, Ulla.
7026. Ulla. Cruz, forgive. I spread gas to stop them. They run in terror because they know not our agony. I scream at them when I train the Hire upon their bodies, their houses, their weapons. I shriek with ecstasy. I shiver with the coldness of myself, this awful power of loosing the tension from the temporal. Death beckons. It reeks around us. It addicts. It draws more powerfully than the crystals. My beloved Ulla, I would hide from you what I am, but you have loved me, and something inside me compels me to utter honesty. My command disintegrates. My warriors are dying. I feel the alien microbes at work in my body even now. Next message shall be my last. Duet Skill.
6559. Dear Screw. This, according to our time schedule, will be the last message you receive, but I shall keep thinking to you just in case. Somehow, at the edge of the void, our transmitted thoughts will mingle in waves of light the way our lives did, and in this way we shall always be together. The Kusleth returned to one of the council, I know not whom, and things are settled. As though in shame our neighbors circled our home last night. I heard the scuttle of their limbs as I slept, and then the murmur of voices in unison. I peered through your window to see them standing 3 deep in almost hushed silence. Outside they bowed to me, and we listened to the water for a while. No one spoke. After a long time, Emithrol of the council placed a stone before me. It was the center stone from his garden. It has always been his most treasured piece. Beloved dear Skrull, do you know what was on that stone? Your name, engraved as it once was upon the rock of meeting, except Emithrol had pressed crystal into the surface so that your name would shine. I could not look at them, for my heart was filled. When dawn came, I saw that they had left during the night, and now I am thinking this for you, because I cannot bear to think of your shame. The sun has come. My thoughts grow heavy. I have loved you, Ulla.
7027. Ulla. Let this be a record for the Council. It will be news, since Rithganol cannot reach home before this message finds you. This now, my command. Finish the blast cylinder link. My second failed due to health, so I sent him to his quarters, but he is now dead. I completed the calculations for simultaneous detonation myself. I contacted the 6 other teams and ordered them to prepare. I gave them time for Cruz. Then, so I thought, I would destroy this world. The bloodlust beckoned me, and I have not overcome it, but I knew that no enemies would be near, and I wanted to be alone. I wanted to see something of this world before it is gone. I mounted a war walker and entered the city. Evidence of the enemy's terrified retreat lay strewn in the cluttered emptiness of the black dust left by the gas. The mists of the morning curled upwards from the ground. My eyes were drawn to movement, and I felt the lust of death rising in me. Without thinking, I pushed the war walker down the street. An enemy stood there, closing the door to his building. His skin was wrinkled, and he stooped, as though in pain. In his forelimb, he was clutching something as though it were precious. He looked at me for a moment, and then at the thing he held, and then back at me. He might have been frightened. I don't know. I almost killed him then. But something stopped me. Again, he looked at the thing he held, and then placed it gently upon the ground and walked slowly to the middle of the street. He stared up at me, limbs outstretched, and I understood. Your thoughts were with me, Ulla. He did not wish his treasure to be harmed. Kill me, he seemed to say. Burn my flesh, but not that thing which I have placed far from me. I thought of Immerthul's stone. I thought of you, Ulla. I thought of what I had been, of what we had been before we came here. I thought of our people before we decided to attack the enemy, for I believe that that is when our death really began. But even these thoughts, even my shame, could not stop my desire. I killed him, Ulla. I will not say that I didn't mean to, because I did, and I believe I would do it again. I enjoyed killing the enemy. Even then, even now, thinking of it, the shame of pleasure taints my remorse. Afterwards, I lowered myself with some effort to the ground and turned the body over so I could see its expression. I had given it a short burst, and much of the flesh was destroyed, but I could see the moment of agony in which it had died still etched onto its face, as though the act itself were recorded in rock for all time. I went to the doorway to retrieve the thing he had held, and when I picked it up, I saw that it was a sort of book, with still images of the enemy fastened to the thin, brittle pages. In these images, the enemy stood with his face pressed to that of a female. Perhaps this was a pleasant memory, a long-past ceremony of otherness. I took the book back and I set it on the enemy's chest. Forgive me, I said. Perhaps I should feel foolish asking forgiveness from a dead enemy. But somehow this seems like the least foolish thing I have done in a long time. I hear the clamor of the other units now in my thought link, and I tell them to enter the void in silence. I tell them that I am still in good health and will detonate the cylinders at the last moment, and so purchase that much more honor. I do not wish them to know what I plan, for they might try to stop me. They do not detect my lie. In short time it will be too late anyway, for we all dying quickly now. I climb back into the war walker and leave the canopy flung wide to the sky. Oh, my beloved, we have been such fools. The Kruslev showed us what was to come, and we tried to avoid it. We sacrificed ourselves to save what might be, and in the process we have lost both. Forgive me. I see the enemy in my mind. They will gain courage to attack again, and they will find us dead. And when they do, they will find our machines. They will find the method of our world's destruction. And they will say, as we did, that it is only right to attack us with the same tools we used to attack them. And some rotation hence they will come to our world in bright crescent cylinders with wings like Taramuluk. And they will disgorge warwalkers and burn and kill. And we who stole the heat ray from them will be the ones to have given it to them. Ulla, beloved Ulla, I beg you, speak to the council. Beseech them, cry out to them for me. Let the enemy come. Do not raise weapons against them. Let them do what they will, though it means I lose you as you have lost me. Let us regain something of what we have lost. If you cannot persuade the council, then share these my thoughts with them, and I will speak from the dead. Ulla, my Ulla, I cry to you from across the distance. I take great gasping breaths of poisonous air and shout your name to the universe. Let the enemy hear me. Let him find me and see the agony of my death. May it bring him satisfaction, but not pleasure. Ulla. Ulla!
As you can tell, this story draws from War of the Worlds. As may be slightly less apparent, it also draws heavily from the prog rock double album version of War of the Worlds. Jeff Wayne's magnum opus is one of the weirdest albums it's ever been my good fortune to have nightmares about, and believe me, I did. War of the Worlds is the good wound, for me. It may even be the first place I encountered science fiction. When I was little, my folks had the 2-cassette album, and that thing just straight up terrified me. Even looking at it. The bulbous eyes on the tripod, the Thunderchild slagging into nothing beneath its blast, the bass you could feel in your chest, the frequent David Essex. I kid because I love. So much so that when I saw it later as an adult, I was struck by how well it's aged and how powerful it still is. Not just the music either, but the way it combines with the imagery. Without the careful, slightly broken waltzes of the Red Weed, you don't get the cathonically beautiful version of Claire de Lune playing over that King of the Monsters trailer that dropped a couple of weeks ago. Without Ulla, you don't get the visceral horror of the aliens' victory and the sense of our world being overridden by a culture completely different to, not to mention superior to, our own. But even with them, you're denied context. The Martians are a monolith, a blank, featureless invasive force whose motives remain a mystery. And that's where Daniel, JR, and Jared come in, and so perfectly provide context. A sense not just of a plan, but of the thought process that led to that plan. A painful awareness of what is at stake and what is lost. A final, tragic, romantic context for that chilling war cry. Individuality, the Martians' greatest weakness. More so even than germs. Context and consequence. The Martians were threatening because they were implacable and seemingly invincible. Now, they're threatening and tragic. This is empathic, compassionate storytelling, without ever pulling a single punch, and one that cleverly folds into a whole series of different takes on the original. Ian Edginton and Disraeli's Scarlet Traces graphic novel series reimagines the Martian invasion as the start of a kind of singularity. Moore and O'Neill's The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen does something similar. Hell, even War of the Worlds The Resurrection, the amazing early 90s TV show, uses the Martians as a means of commenting on environmental damage and greed, as well as being a sequel to the original US movie. That's the original movie, not the original book, obviously. That invasion, like all war stories, is different things to different people, and it's been fascinating to see those other sequels emerge over the years. It tells us everyone is the hero of their own story, and sometimes we're the villain of someone else's, whether we want to be or not. The secret is what we do with that knowledge, what we want our message to be, and viewed in those lights, that Martian screaming, "Ulla!" plays very differently, doesn't it? We rely on you to pay our authors and cover our server costs, and there are really 3 ways you can do that. The first is to go to escapepod.org, click on the donate button and pick donate or subscribe. That donate can be any amount you want. Subscribe can start at $5 a month. At $5 a month, you get access to our premium content folder, which is constantly updated by all 4 shows. And over on Patreon, we have a rolling activity feed, which is free to everybody, so you get a good idea of what we're all up to. And again, at $5 a month, you get access to the premium content feed. Levels above that, you get things like people at $10 get entered into a random monthly draw, the winner of which I work with to create a personalized book recommendation report. And we have videos, which are in the very early stages of planning, quarterly video Q&As, that kind of thing, and all sorts of other stuff. That's if you can afford to donate. If you can't afford to donate, you can still help. You can help by publicising what we do. If you liked a story, tweet about it, Facebook it, talk about it somewhere public. If you have a blog and you'd like a guest host or a guest appearance on it, say the word. We love to do that kind of thing. Likewise, other podcasts. Help us by paying or help us by signal boosting. Pay or promotion. Everything begins with P. It all helps. And believe me, we're very grateful for everything you folks do. We've had a very, very intense few years. And we were actually talking about this a little while ago. The first Worldcon we attended was 2014, and we were on no programming at all. 2018's Worldcon is, as I record this, about 3 weeks away, and we are a Hugo finalist. And we wouldn't be here without you. So, from all of us to all of you, thank you. We'll be back next week with Me, Meg and the Thing, written by Jan Paul Bergeron, narrated by Trendane Sparks, and hosted by Divya. Then, as now, we will be a production of Escape Artists Incorporated and released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license. And we leave you with this quote: "The chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1. We'll see you next week, folks. Until then, have fun.